Darcy share with us just kind of like what it is, how is it used, and she will give us all those details. So what we're going to do is let her, I kind of gave her a bunch of questions that have come up in some of our previous meetings, so she has those. So we'll turn it over to her, and then I'm guessing, Darcy, you're okay if we ask questions at the end? All right, perfect. So I'm just going to turn it over to you and have you give us an education lesson today. So thanks.
Okay. Okay. So nice to meet everybody. Like she said, I'm Darcy. I work at Hemp 1848 in Janesville. We are a small CBD store. We started out really with the goal of healing, the healing aspect of CBD, and that was our main focus when we started the business. It's not just about the smoking; it's about topicals, about oils. So there's all sorts of products that we've been making with CBD, um, and of course, as things change and new things come onto the market, Delta 8 was kind of dumped on us, just like you guys, you know. So we're learning as well. So everything I'm teaching you, kind of, we're learning too, and new information comes out every day about it. So, with that being said, kind of how we fell into it, of course, is that there's a huge interest in CBD right now. And because it recently became legalized everywhere, more people are exposed to it. And you can find it even in gas stations nowadays. So, we're really focused on putting out the right information about that and making sure that the products are top notch and good quality. Um, Sometimes what you go and you purchase at a gas station isn't exactly what it says it is. A lot of times it'll say it's a CBD oil, but really it's just hemp seed oil, which does have wonderful healing properties too, but not as much as the CBD. Um, so I got off on a little CBD tangent there, but that's really kind of the core of our business and where we all started. It's really about the healing. So Delta 8 was introduced recently, and people are really into it for the fact that it also has that psychoactive effect of regular THC. Um, However, it's deemed as a safer version. That's not necessarily true either. It has the same exact effects. It's just a little bit lighter. And people will say that it does not have the same anxiety effects, that it does not give you panic attacks or anxiety like normal THC can, but it actually does if you've taken too much of it. So that's where education is really important, is because when dosing at the right levels, this is very safe and very helpful to many people. But when it's used inaccurately and kind of more for fun and recreation, that's where we have the problems, where people are using too much of it and getting sick and ending up in the emergency room. And we don't want that as much as you don't want that. You know, we're here to help people, not send anybody to the emergency room. So basically, how they differ, the three different things: CBD, Delta 8 THC, and Delta 9 THC, which is your regular form of THC, um, is that they are all extracts of the cannabis plant. The CBD is an extract that has no psychoactive effects at all. It has many, many, many healing properties. There's lists and lists of different things that the CBD is being studied for right now and has been shown to heal. So CBD actually has a lot of backing scientifically, and that's the one that you're going to hear the most about, and the one that's really pretty accepted or becoming very, very accepted as a healing thing. Um, of course, THC, everybody knows about that. The regular Delta 9 THC, that is an extract that primarily Up until recently, it was extracted illegally for the high, for the psychoactive effects of it. Recently, people are starting to really see the healing effects of it, and scientific research is put into it. And we are seeing that it really is a legitimate healing medicine. You know, it's an herb, it's not a pharmaceutical, it's an herb. And people are really starting to see that. So the way that THC was once condemned is not quite as much as it used to be. And now we introduce this new Delta 8, which is also a natural extract of the plant. It is being taken out of the plant in a chemical process, but it's not a chemical and it's not a synthetic. And that's where a lot of confusion comes into play. It's taken out chemically. It is a chemical compound in the plant, but everything has chemicals. So it's not that it is a synthetic chemical. It's a natural chemical. And I just want to be really clear about that, because that's where a lot of people start saying, oh, it's a synthetic, it's harmful, but it's not actually. It, of course, has its pros and it has its cons, but in itself, it's not a harmful chemical. And that word just scares a lot of people. So that was one thing on the list that I saw was a big, big thing, is that you're asking, is it natural? And it is a natural extract. Up until recently, they weren't able to just get this chemical out by itself, but new advancements in science have made it so we can just take out the Delta 8. And that's why there's no laws about it yet. And there will be. I mean, of course, the more anything is out there, the more anything is being used, the more the government's going to be involved. So right now, there's very little regulation on it, but every day we're facing more. Every day there's kind of more hoops they're putting in front of us. So we're having to step up and make a better and better product every single day. And you might find Delta 8 in all sorts of different ways. It can be smoked just like regular THC. It can be turned into oils and butters and put into edibles. That's kind of the big popular way right now, is everybody's into the edibles. It can be put into vape cartridges. People are vaping with it. And so pretty much every way that you can enjoy CBD or Delta 9 THC, you can also enjoy the Delta 8 THC now. Trying to cover some of these other little points on your list, I'm sorry. So right now, it is not licensed or, well, and it's taxed just under regular sales tax. Like I said, every day new restrictions are being put into place. And of course, there are going to be taxations on that, and there's going to be more and more restrictions and licensings that we have to go through to bring that to you. So, and just like anything, we check IDs. It is not sold to people under 21. So that's really important. If you're going into a CBD store and you look young, or you're with somebody that looks young and they're not carding, that's not good. As a CBD store manager, I don't want to see that. You know, I card everybody who walks through my door. It's very important that children not be taking these things. You know, while CBD is safe for children, of course, everything has moderation. It's safe for children when a parent is administering it, when an adult is the one that's administering it. You know, we need to realize that everything has to have a responsible party, you know? So it's up to that parent to decide if Delta 8 is right for their child, but we will not sell the child Delta 8. It has to go through an adult. So, and that will show up on a drug test. Delta 8 will show up on a drug test, and a lot of forms of CBD will actually show up on a drug test as well. There's different forms of CBD. There is the isolate, there's broad spectrum, and then there's full spectrum. Now, your full spectrum has THC, CBD, and a whole bunch of other cannabinoids in it. So because it does have that trace amount of THC, and it's under the legal limit that we're allowed to sell in Wisconsin, which is 0.05%. So it's under that, but it still can show up on a drug test. So Delta 8 can still show up on a drug test. And we make that very clear. If I'm selling you any of these products, I'll tell you that it could show up on a drug test. And then I'll recommend one of the isolate CBD products that will not show up on a drug test. So we have ways that you can still benefit from CBD, even if you have to deal with drug testing through work or whatever. So let me make sure I hit all the points you guys wanted me to. Labeling, that goes along with the new restrictions that we're all, having to face. And every day that changes. We have a list right now of restrictions, what we do have to put on the labeling. So we do adhere to that very strictly in my company. And I hope that other companies are doing that. We are checked regularly. There's a couple of people that they can walk into my store at any time, go through anything that I have, and make sure I am following the law to the T. And so at our store, we make sure that we are, because we know that they can do that, and they're just doing their job. So we try to work very friendly with those people, because they're helping us by making these laws clear too. So by having the proper labeling, it helps us ensure that we can bring you guys exactly what you want, and the public is educated about the product as well. So it's really important to us that labeling is as clear as possible. And hopefully there will be more laws about that, actually. So I will open it up to questions. Anybody questions?
So I'm sure I have a lot, but I'm going to, does anybody else have other questions? I know there was one in the chat about, so you said that there were individuals who come in and check your store. Do you know who does those checks?
Right now, there's a couple different groups right now. Right now, I'm working mostly with the weights and measurements, and that's through the state of Wisconsin. So that's a government agency, and they come through and they make sure that, they're in charge of our labeling. So he gave me a whole list of restrictions, what my label has to say on it. And that would be, like milligrams and, of course, warnings, recommendations, how many you're supposed to take. And oddly enough, it is the Department of Weights and Measurements that's in charge of that. So right now, they're the main person I'm working with. But we've had the Janesville police walk in our door and check all our paperwork, so as it progresses, there's kind of more and more people who become involved.
Does the waste and measurement, do they check for the accuracy on your labels as well, or just check that you make sure that you have stuff on the labels?
Accuracy as well.
Okay.
Because they can test our product, and we do have third-party testing. So not only we're making the product, then we're sending it to get tested, plus they're coming in and testing it. Plus, in addition to that, we can have random tests dropped at any time. So there is a lot of testing that goes into it to make sure that what we say we have is what we really have.
All right, other questions?
Darcy, could you talk about the extraction process a little bit more? Like when Delta 8 is extracted, what's that process? How does that process work? And what kind of chemicals are used to extract?
Mainly it is, mainly it's going to be like alcohol that's used, rubbing alcohol, or isotropic alcohol. We don't actually do that ourselves, of course. We buy the Delta 8. So what we get it in is like a great big jug, and it looks like it's either called a wax or dabs is what it's called. But it comes like a really thick, waxy substance, the way we get it. And to get that jug that we're getting, it's about 9 pounds. That takes, I would say, probably about 1,000 plants just to get 9 pounds of that. So, and it's mostly through like steam distillation that they're doing it. But as far as like, I've never actually seen it done, and we don't do it ourselves. We buy it from a lab in Colorado. So, and we get everything, all the paperwork on it. So they're also doing the third-party testing as well. So at their lab, they're testing it, they're sending it out for testing, and we're getting 2 different paperworks coming back with that when we receive it. So I know that doesn't really answer your question though.
No, I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I know that you could probably Google it, and it's like a steam distillation. So it's pretty much how they make moonshine, is how they're taking the plant matter and it's going through steam, and then it's divided up. Each little oil droplet is going one area, and then the water's going in another section. So it's all apparatus, but it's very much like how they make moonshine, honestly.
So, and then Darcy, did you get to choose which labs you work with, or is there like a list that's approved labs that can be used? How is that chosen?
Yeah, they have to be approved, of course, but yeah, we have some choice because there's a couple different ones that we've used. We are going with the one in Colorado because we think they have the best product. But we used to get it from California. So yeah, we have a list of approved labs that we can choose from, but they have very strict requirements that they have to go through to be able to sell to us. So
I have a basic question. This is Sheila. I'm still learning a lot about this topic, and I feel kind of like I should know the answer to this question, but I don't. Are there 2 different plants? Is there a hemp plant and then a marijuana plant, or is it all the same?
well, there is. So it's all the cannabis plant, and I like to compare it to like roses. I'm actually a horticulturist, so that's my background. I've worked in the landscape industry for 25 years. So for me, I like to compare it to like, say, roses. All roses are roses, but there's different hybrids. And that's basically what we're dealing with this. All of it comes from the cannabis plant, but there's different hybrids within the cannabis plant. So there's cannabis plants that are bred specifically for CBD, and they don't have enough of a THC level to get you high or to, be used for THC, but they contain enough CBD that they're really good for CBD. And then there's plants in the hemp family that don't even have good CBD, and those would be the ones that you would just use for textiles, like fabric, yarn, So there's actually a bunch of different hybrids within the cannabis plant. So that was a great question, actually.
Darcy, what is the percent of THC in the Delta 8 and Delta 9 that you get?
The Delta 8 that we are getting is, it's anywhere from 93 to 97%. I wish I had brought one of those analytical sheets for you. I could always email one to Annie and she can get it out to you guys, but it just really shows the testing and what they're testing for, because there's a lot of different things that they're testing for. But I'll get that to Annie. So the one we're using specifically could range, and they're allowed to range. They're allowed to be a little bit different, but it is between 93 and 97. And then as far as Delta 9, we don't purchase any of that because in Wisconsin we cannot sell that.
So Darcy, I have a question about labeling.
Mhm.
Is there a place on the label that says that your product has been third-party tested?
Yes, we do actually. Not all of our labels, but our oils do say that.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yep. It's something we've talked about though as well, is putting it on everything. So we are, like I said, everything, every day we change a little bit, you know, every day we improve a little bit more, I guess is how I like to see it. So we take things like this and we use them as, you know, positive feedback. So I could take this and be like, you know, go back to the store and be like, yeah, I think it's a really good idea that we put this on all our products. And it is something that we've talked about, as well as dating. We don't have to have expiration dates on all of our products, but we're going to be doing it on everything just because we think it's better for us to do that. We feel it makes you as the consumer feel better to see that. So.
And on those labels, do you also then include, again, like the information of what is the recommendation of the dosage for each of your products?
We do on our edibles, and that's really important. We have it on the label, but we also hand out a little sheet, kind of like a little warning thing. And every time somebody buys a Delta 8 product, I'm handing them that. So it pretty much says exactly what's on the label, but essentially what it says is that you should take one, only start with one, and then wait about 45 minutes to an hour. Feel the effects of that before deciding if you want to take another one. It also states on there that the effects can range and increase over a period of 4 to 6 hours. So that, you know, you're kind of in it for a little while, you know? So we like people to know what to expect. But in addition to that being on the label and us handing this out to you, we're also telling you that when we sell you this product as well. So you're pretty much getting it 3 times.
Well, and have you had any, and I just know like in other states that have legalized marijuana, so a little bit different, but recognizing like for some of those edibles, you know, like I know like for a cookie, it's only a 1/6 of a cookie or something like that. So how do you guys protect like ensuring that packaging is, I guess, labeled, but also recognizing like how to ensure that it's not getting in the hands of kids and those kind of things by accident? Is there anything that you guys do on that end?
Yeah, see, and that I'd like us to step up more on, you know, and that's just something I guess we haven't quite figured out. Once the product leaves our store, you know, how can we ensure that children aren't getting it, you know? And they look yummy. I mean, I understand completely. They look yummy. So, as a mother myself, you know, I've thought that too. I mean, my kids are grown now, But if they were younger, I would probably be pretty nervous having that in my fridge because I know my children, they're going to go after what looks yummy, you know? And so we can put what it says. We can put all sorts of information on the label. You know, we could put skull and crossbones and do whatever we can, but we also really have to rely on parents to be stepping up and making sure that they're putting that somewhere safe and keeping it out of reach of children. But it does definitely say that on our labeling, keep out of reach of children, you know, not for ages under 21. So,
Is there
And do-
anything about pregnancy?
yeah, we do actually have that as well too, is that pregnant nursing mothers shouldn't use.
Thank you.
And then does it also explain, like, because again, the potency of those, and I'm reading some of the chat questions. so,
Yeah,
like,
I'm reading. I'm kind of trying to watch them too.
So like some of the potency of those edibles, like, is it explained? And do you feel like
Yeah.
most people understand what potency means, or is
Oh,
that
yeah.
something that you explain too?
I find, you know, most people who are walking through the door are looking for what I'm selling, you know? So it's not, they pretty much have a basic understanding already when they're walking through the door. Maybe not necessarily of Delta 8 or Delta 9 or the difference, but they're basically walking in with a basic understanding of CBD or what they're looking for, that they're looking for, you know, basically a medication of some sort. So in that aspect, I find normally people have done a little bit of homework on their own and they do understand what I'm telling them. I do believe that they understand when I'm explaining to it. And it does say on the label how much to use, what we recommend as a serving size. So I sell like a bag of 10 gummies, but we say serving size 1 gummy. And then we do kind of go over, you know, like I said, the effects of it. We cover the pregnant nursing. We cover don't take it while driving, you know, or using machinery. So I really do feel like that we cover our bases with that, with the labeling and with our staff. And that's really important to us, that our staff be trained and that our staff be monitored in what they're you know, that they are telling people this. So we do have mystery shoppers and stuff like that that we kind of spring on our people to make sure that that is happening.
But that's not, I mean, that's really something that your store does, but
Right.
there is no, because I know licensing is a big, like,
Yeah.
most stores are not licensed, or there's no like real protocol of how you can operate or how you need to operate your store,
Right.
right?
There is, to a degree.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is, like I said, we do have to have the certain things that the labels have to say. And that's not just us. It's, so the same guy that I'm working with on the labeling restrictions, he's doing the same things, making gas stations follow the same requirements as us. So anybody who is selling CBD is having to face the same restrictions that we are. So I know it's not quite enough yet, but they are kind of putting more and more into play every day. And it's through these kind of coalitions and stuff, I think that we're really getting the improvement in that, is because we're all a voice, or voices that can be heard, you know, that can put that information to them, that this is what we need. This is what we want to see on these labels to make sure that children aren't getting it, to make sure that people are using it correctly. So yeah, every day it changes a little bit more, and every day it improves a little bit more, I guess, is to sum it up. But I agree, there's not quite enough yet.
So there was a question about so you said Delta 8 is not sold to people under 21, but what about CBD?
CBD can be sold at 18. Now, topicals and edibles and which would be tinctures, those can be sold at 18. Anything smokable is also 21.
And is the 21 is that for your store only, or is that a statewide mandate
That's
for the
statewide.
Delta 8? Okay.
Yeah, statewide.
That is, I've visited a few of the Delta 8 stores in our area as part of our environmental scan, and 21 is not statewide. As I understand it in talking to several people, there's no state mandated age requirement for Delta 8, so it's up to the individual retailer.
I'm not sure.
Correct. I
Yeah,
think it's going under the federal level, but not the state level.
Okay, that may be correct, but I know that we were told by the guy that 21, but the one we're working with, yeah, he told us it was 21. So that's what we go with at our store.
Okay.
But nothing smokable. Smokable kind of falls along with the Tobacco Act and everything, so that becomes 21. So we're just checking IDs. Pretty much everybody who walks through the door. You have to be so careful.
And when you say the guy, you're talking about the weights and measurements? Is
Yeah,
that
the
correct?
weights and measurements.
Would they have a list? Because I know we've been trying to find a list of like where all the stores are at, just so we have a sense. And I know so like coalition members could go in and make sure, you know, some of these things,
Yeah.
make sure that they're selling. Do you know, is there a place where like if you were to do a search for like where all the CBD stores or the Delta 8 stores are, is there a master list to that that's accessible? Or again, because you're not licensed, is that not available?
I haven't seen one of those, but he probably would know. I can ask him. I can
Okay.
actually get you his contact info.
Yeah.
Okay. I can, yeah. I'll send that to you with that analytical paperwork on our Delta 8.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
All
he
right.
knows because he has to visit all these places.
All right.
Could you describe your typical customers for these type of products? Who
Yeah,
are they?
actually, I did want to cover that, and I'm so glad you asked that because I think that a lot of times there's a general, people have a general idea that it's a certain type of people that are, you know, wanting to use this stuff, and you kind of think of like the hippie type of person that's looking to use marijuana, you know. But our clients are such a wide range of people, and that's what shocks me every day, is that there's nothing typical about this. You know, we have a majority of my clients are cancer patients and people dealing with serious illnesses, and so you're looking at a lot of older people, a lot of people, you know, in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are using this for health reasons. Of course, we get kids in their 20s that come in and they're looking for the buzz, and but a majority of our customers and clientele are older people. And most of them are people with serious health issues, and that is what they're using it for, is actually as a medicinal herb, not recreational. And we also get, as we were talking about parents and children and stuff, I do have several parents that are my customers who give their children the CBD edibles for anxiety and stuff. And, you know, that's that's their choice as a parent. I sell it to the parent, like I said, and they've told me they're giving it to their children. I don't even have a right to have an opinion about that, honestly. You know, so that's their business, but we do have parents that buy it for their children as well. And that's the CBD products, not the Delta 8 though.
I have a question if that's okay, Annie.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, we have like about 5 more minutes for questions.
All right. My question is, okay, so Delta 8 seems like it's, I mean, you say it's not THC, but I'm hensing there's 93 and 97%.
Yeah, it is
THC in it.
THC.
So my concern is, as I wear a different hat other than the coalition as a court clerk for Wanakee, now, how are our officers going to test this if they pull someone over driving, or if they're at school and they're getting vape products with THC? Do you know how that's going to show up on testing? Is it going to show up as having THC in it? So then how, I'm confused on how we're selling Delta 8 then if we're not legalizing marijuana in Wisconsin. I'm just so confused on.
Okay.
I'm wearing the hat of legality, like
no, I understand.
Officers, because I mean, this past year we've had so many OWIs with having blood work, and then they turn out to have THC or other types of substance in their systems.
Right.
I guess, and I'm concerned about our officers, like our school resource officers at our high schools and middle schools, or even just out in our town picking up kids or whatever complaints. I'm so confused on this, that how this is even happening. It is. I can't wrap my head around it, but I understand. And you say you're following the rules, but there's no statewide mandate to make sure all stores like you are doing that. Because, I'm by Madison, so there are a ton of, within 15, 20 minutes of Wanakee that we know kids are getting it. And 18-year-olds, if you can sell CBD, and I know there's no standard for Delta 8, we have 18-year-olds in high school. So I'm just like my heart, I'm just getting overwhelmed by, this is another thing we have to do. And I understand all the health aspects. I understand all the benefits that's a totally different subject. Our concern is our youth and our young adults that are, So I asked a lot of questions, but maybe you can enlighten us a little bit on that.
Okay. First off, Delta 8 is THC. So Delta 8 is THC, and the THC that's legal down in Illinois is Delta 9 THC. There's also a Delta 10 THC, but we won't get into that. So they are both different forms of THC. So Delta 8 is THC, and it definitely shows up as THC because it is THC. So I guess in a nutshell, that answers your question, because if somebody is driving and they were to get pulled over and they had been using Delta 8 THC and they were tested, yes, it is going to show up as THC, and they're going to get an intoxicated driving ticket because they were intoxicated driving. So we're not saying you should drive on this stuff, because you shouldn't. It follows just all the same rules, so we don't want you driving on it.
How are we able to sell it in Wisconsin then if we're not legalized to sell THC?
We can't sell Delta 9 THC in Wisconsin.
So there again goes the not having, okay.
Yeah, we can sell Delta 8 THC in Wisconsin.
So is this just a case of it's not yet regulated?
Yes.
So it's just a loophole.
Yes, and there are regulations that kind of a little bit more every day that they're putting into place. So every day we kind of have to look at the latest reports and kind of see what's the newest thing, because it's very up in the air right now. And unfortunately, sorry about that. There are, unfortunately, not as many regulations about this as there should be. So but it is treated just like any form, any substance, you know, it is a substance. You shouldn't be driving on it. You are considered intoxicated driving. No, children should not be going, nobody should be going to work on it. Nobody should be going to school, you know. So we do want to treat it just the same as something like alcohol.
So
you
is
know.
there, whoops, I'm sorry. Is there a place that we can find out these regulations that you're talking about, that we can find out what those are?
Right now, yeah, there really isn't anything that's really out there. I mean, there's new reports every day, and that's like, we do a Google search every day, like Delta 8, and kind of look and see what the newest reports are, because pretty much it's something that there has been news reports almost every day about, because it is such a concern. There are so many people like you guys that are confused and concerned about it. And so our lawmakers are really delving into it right now and getting on the ball about getting these restrictions and regulations out there, getting this information out there.
So real quickly, do you know what lawmakers are doing that? Do you have it?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I know we kind of have a group chat with our employees, and we're always all sharing different articles, whatever we happen to see. So I know that the latest one, I thought Senate was going to be voting on something, and I'd have to check that again and look in our group chat and kind of find out what that article was. I just barely skimmed it.
So Darcy, can you so I'm confused like everyone else too, in terms of so if the state were to legalize marijuana, really what would be the difference between what is being sold with Delta 8 and Delta 9? Is it truly what is that difference of how will it change that dynamic if the state were to legalize?
Most likely what we kind of think is if Wisconsin did go make THC 9 legal, it probably wouldn't completely phase out Delta 8, but you wouldn't have the hype, you know? Everybody wouldn't be rushing out to get Delta 8. They'd be rushing out to get Delta 9, you know? Because the two are so similar. What people really are wanting is the THC. And so if THC 9 were to go legal, I don't think it would phase out Delta 8, but I think you just want to hear about the Delta 8 as much, you know, because people would be able to get what they're looking for either way, you know. They'd be using either form of THC, not just specifically the Delta 8. So
Darcy,
Right.
this is Kath. Is the THC, you had said 0.05 is the legal limit right now?
Yeah.
And is the Delta 9 higher? Is that why that's going to be more interest, or did I miss something?
No, the Delta 9 is that it's 0.05% THC. And that's the legal limit in Wisconsin for Delta 9 THC.
Okay.
That would be like the THC that you go down to Illinois and buy, or what we all know as the good old fashioned pot, you know, is actually Delta 9 THC. So that only applies to that Delta 9 THC. Delta 8, it doesn't have that restriction. It's just legal. So, you know, 100% potency Delta 8 THC is legal. Now, if Delta 9 were to go legal in Wisconsin, then it would just be the same as Delta 8 is now too. There wouldn't be that 0.05 restriction. It would be, you know, whatever, the whole thing is legal. You know, we don't have to stick under that restriction. So
I think what I remember our law enforcement saying is that right now with the dogs that go in and do searches, they're they're not even training them anymore to sniff out marijuana because they're worried about illegal search and seizure. If it's legal to have the product, and it could damage cases. That's another issue. I work primarily in tobacco prevention, and it's just interesting to me that some of the things that we're working on to reduce access of youth use in tobacco is the same challenges with the placement of the product, the packaging, the coloring, the flavoring, and even just kind of perusing your website. And it's I hear over and over the tobacco industry saying we're not targeting youth, and yet there's 15,000 flavors of tobacco flavoring. It just seems similar. And I wonder, like, how would that impact your business if there was no flavorings? Would they, medicinal, the people who I know people also who are, cancer patients, and I completely support non-use of pharmaceuticals if it's possible. But what would happen if if your shop didn't have flavors? Because right now that's a conversation in the tobacco industry. And I'm just curious, because it's the same marketing strategies, and youth, if it really isn't targeting youth, and is it necessary to have flavors, birthday cakes, cookies, gummies? Could the medicinal use still be, a one product? And it's just something I'm thinking about, because it's something that I'm working on in tobacco.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I totally understand. No, I think it would absolutely impact our business, but not like it wouldn't devastate us. We'd still get plenty of business. We'd still get those cancer patients, I believe, and people with serious illnesses. Our tinctures and our oils actually don't have a flavor. We do not make them with a flavor. We offer a flavor that people can add to it, and we let them do that right there, and we let them add that themselves, so they can kind of put as much flavor, as little as they want in it. But what I find is most people don't like the flavor in the oil, and that's why we don't actually just make it with the flavor in it. So as far as those things like our tinctures and our topicals, of course, don't need flavor, So I think we'd still sell half or more of our products easily without flavor. But then like our edibles, those gummies, that would kind of knock those out completely, though.
Yeah.
So
it's just that youth are saying that they wouldn't use the products if it wasn't for the flavors. And I'm talking tobacco.
Right.
So my guess is it would be similar.
Exactly.
Thank you for being here, and I'll.
Problem. Oh, I can't hear you, Annie.
Unfortunately, this is the amount of time that we allocated for this, so we can move into some more group discussion. But Darcy, I want to thank you so much for coming and at least providing us, a store owner's viewpoint and some of the things that you are experiencing as an owner and selling. And so this was helpful just to give us some start of information. I'm sure we will have another 1,000 questions, and it sounds like the state may have 1,000 questions too that need to be figured out and determined. So so I really thank you so much. And if any of those pieces that you get to me, we will make sure that we will forward to our group today. But again, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me, guys. Thank you so much. You guys have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks, Darcy.
Thanks. Bye. I'll get that information to you.